Watch as a leftist student steps up to challenge Charlie Kirk on his facts and statistics and essentially argues that facts are unfair. Honk honk! Yes, guys, that is the sound of Clown World. It has gotten bad, so we're gonna get right into it. You guys are gonna enjoy it. It's gonna be a lot of fun. But first, everybody, do me a huge favor here. Like our video, share it around, and if you are new, subscribe to the Resist the Mainstream YouTube channel so we can keep bringing you guys this great content. As always, everybody, I'm your host, Darian. Let's get into the clip.
Hello. Sorry if I'm not as articulate as I could be. It's weird to see you guys in person. I am kind of interested in the wordplay, specifically Charlie, because I've seen the most of you online, but also Candace, but I'm afraid I have nothing to ask, but specifically Charlie. A lot of the wordplay you use, and a lot of the sources that you draw on, like the statistics, you're very good at just ramping off statistics and throwing them into the person that you're arguing. I was wondering, where do you collect your sources, and do you make them easily accessible?
Of course. Would you like to name an example that I can cite for you now?
I don't question that the things that you're saying are factual. It's more how they are phrased and how they are put to us. So, for example, the thing that you've just said now about abortion, could you quickly remind me so I don't trip over my own
Sure,
words?
I'll do the first one. I say, a celebration of a pregnancy, why do we call that event a baby shower, not a fetus shower?
Right, so that in itself sounds like, oh, right, well, that means there's a cultural acceptance of the idea that it's a baby pre-birth. But that's just a linguistic, cultural way. So I call it, I'm pro-choice, for example, but I would still call it a baby shower. That doesn't mean I culturally accept the idea that it's a baby pre-birth. I'm just using a linguistic standard.
There's deeper meaning, though. Let's play this out. It's fun. So if the individual that has the baby shower decides right after the baby shower to have an abortion, what is that inside of her called?
I don't want to do this, if that's all right. I don't want to do abortion.
I know, but you see all of a sudden your argument
Can I use a different
up?
example if abortion is kicking up too much dust?
Say that again.
Can I use a different example
Sure,
of a fact?
that's fine.
I love it when a leftist challenges a position that a person may state, and then they give what I think is a clever response to it, and then they immediately say, oh, well, no, let's not talk about this. Let's change the topic, blah, 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 blah. By the way, fetus means baby in Latin, so you're still calling it a baby, whether you realize it or not.
Okay, so
Perfectly fine.
the first thing I saw with you in was your political debate with Hassan.
Yeah.
That was the first thing I saw of you. And you said, you'll probably still remember it, but it was that the worst 10 cities in America were run by Democrats.
Yeah, the poorest, most murderous. Yeah.
Right, so I looked it up because I wanted to read up on it, and there wasn't a source in the video mirror I'd seen. And that was correct, but it was also correct that of the top 10 cities, most of them were Democrat, and across the board, on average, most cities are Democrat. So the fact that you took it out of the entirety of the fact, which is that most cities are Democrat, the top best cities are Democrat, and the worst cities are Democrat, and you chose to only say that the worst cities are Democrat.
Top best cities are Democrat?
Well, so he means the most he means the wealthiest.
In the same way that, yeah. So the study that I found that mirrored your statistic said that.
So cities tend to be more, urban areas tend to be more to the left, just as they are. But when Republican mayors are actually allowed the chance to govern, the results are remarkable. And so let's juxtapose cities versus states, or even if you want to extrapolate what my argument was really talking about. In the laboratory of democracy theory, which we all believe in, which is when certain states are allowed to have juxtaposed policies and contrast against each other, you see huge differences. So the most prosperous, most job-creating, most entrepreneurial states are ones with Republican governors and low-tax, low-regulation type policies. And there is a correlation between the most murderous, the most dangerous, and the most honestly hopeless areas, and Candace grew up in one of them, are almost always dominated by Democrats. But when those Republican policies are actually allowed to be instituted, those communities turn around quite quickly.
Another point I wish Charlie mentioned is a very simple one. What are some of the wealthiest cities in the country, or the best, as this college student likes to put it? San Francisco, Los Angeles, New York City, those are very high up, they're very wealthy. And they all suck. Go take a walk in the street there. Take a look at all the drug needles on the floor, the human poop on the street, the endless crime. All of it is getting so much worse and considered by many to be the best cities. So I reject that premise that just because a city has money, that means it's a good place to live. That is very often not the case.
And another one was that you said, I think it was the life expectancy in Cuba was 15 years lower than that in the United States.
Yeah, if the government doesn't kill you, right.
Right, democide. But I looked it up as well, and I found there was no information on that. And in fact, the Google definition, which draws on, it cites many different studies, and it fills it all in and it pulls it all together, and it chooses the most reasonable response that's backed up by facts and logic. It said that it was actually a year older than the US. So how do you, especially
point.
when you're, like, I think it's called galloping, when you're throwing so many points in a debate, do you not think it's unfair and unreasonable and maybe at points even manipulative to be phrasing things in a certain way that might be, when beyond scrutiny, it's like me who had to Google all of these statistics, which pan out to be not as obtrusive and anti-left as you say they are? Do you not think that's at the worst incompetent, and at the best incompetent, and at the worst malicious?
So you're entitled to your own opinion, not entitled to your own facts. Let's talk about the Cuban one. I reject the own Cuban government's health statistics completely and totally. I don't believe the socialist governments of Cuba's health statistics that they submit to the World Health Organization or the United Nations, because objective, independent analysis of their own health standards are nearly 20 to 30 years behind life expectancy that their own government produces. So what you're looking at is corroborated by people that want it to be true. And we can have a 30-minute discussion over whether you believe the Cuban health statistics, but the answer is, show me another statistic of anything I've talked about in the 300 hours that Candace and I have done, public speaking. Everything I talk about, everything I do is rooted in years of research and backing and data, and I'm happy to talk about each specific one. I don't want to monopolize the time here, but I reject the premise and the insinuation that somehow I'm being reckless, because facts are not reckless. In fact, it's the basis of why we're here and why what we believe.
Based.
You successfully pivoted away from the intention of my question, which wasn't the factual nature of the statements you were saying. It's the way that you phrased them.
So I phrased them effectively, and that should be a problem?
No, it's not about effectively as defined by you, as in it promotes your agenda.
You pivoted quickly away from the abortion thing.
Can I please finish my...
Happy to, yeah.
I pivoted away from the abortion thing, not because I didn't want to talk about it, but because it made me uncomfortable to do so.
Do you think it's effective the way I worded it, because maybe it made you think a way you never had to think before? The point is, I could do that for every issue. It's
more that, so you say we shouldn't trust the Cuban health statistics because they've got an agenda to promote, and that probably makes a lot of sense. But similarly, there are people whose prime objective, as if they're still stuck in McCarthyism, is to obliterate any form of socialism and communism as an opposition to free market capitalism. And so, similarly, in the same way that we shouldn't trust the authorities in Cuba.
Wow, Charlie Kirk is opposed to socialism? So evil. At the end of the day, this is why you can't really rely on facts or data or statistics to make an argument. It can be a supplemental thing, sure, but for that to be foundation, it just doesn't work. And the reason for that is people have constant disagreement on what is a fact and what isn't. And furthermore, you know what they say about statistics? There are liars, damn liars, and statisticians. It's just the truth, because much like Charlie Kirk can obviously correctly point out that life expectancy is on average lower in Cuba, somebody can just as easily say, well, no, look at the facts and the data and the studies and the statistics behind it. Look at my reputable sources. Look what Cuba's government says about it. Look what the World Health Organization says about it, etc., etc. You got the point.
If at the root of this is capitalism versus socialism, is there an example where socialism is really thriving and worked as a concept? This is what I don't understand. It's weird to me when people come up to this discussion and it's like, at your core, you're just defending socialism, defending Cuba, defending, what are you defending?
That's not the root of my question.
I get what you're saying is phrasing things in a way that maybe aren't fair, because you could find something on the internet that maybe supports communism and socialism. That's essentially what you're saying, right?
No, you're mischaracterizing me, actually.
Okay, how am I mischaracterizing you?
You're mischaracterizing me because you've generalized what I'm saying, which is that I've looked into talking points that Charlie's raised. I found the exact studies that he's referenced, and know that they do because they actually mirror the things that he's said verbatim.
So they're cited.
And
So I do use studies, is what you're saying.
I never said you didn't, Charlie.
I'm not sure where you're coming from.
That's why I'm saying I'm not mischaracterizing you. I get what you're saying. You're saying, Charlie, he's saying that you say facts, but there are also alternative facts that would maybe present socialism and communism in a better way.
That is exactly what he's saying. And I think it's example about the cities and how, well, you should have said they were also the best cities, even though, we're talking about cities like San Francisco and Los Angeles and New York City, which suck, and despite being very wealthy, are full of poverty and despair and homelessness and drug use. Yeah, He just doesn't like that Charlie is preventing arguments that benefit the left more. Go figure. With that being said, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We really appreciate it. As always, please be sure to comment below. Let us know what you liked about the video, what kind of stuff you want to see in the future, and we'll see you guys again soon. Thanks, and God bless.